Hi and welcome to our next session, which is session number 7, routine and habits with better health, better self. Today we're going to look at how our habits and routines are contributing to our lifestyle in a positive or, for that matter, a negative way. So the objectives for today are to understand how to form new positive habits by understanding what we already do and thus making changes for the better, to learn that our current routine isn't set in stone and can be adapted, and to understand which routines you currently have or we currently have and which ones contribute towards unhealthy habits. So we'll delve deep into some of these habits that we may have that might be conducive to healthy lifestyle or a unhealthy lifestyle. First things first, we're going to look at defining habits and what they actually are. So habits are commonly associated with being minor insignificant behaviours that we have, like biting nails, cracking knuckles, or saying like inappropriately within a sentence. These are just a few. There's thousands of different habits that we can have in terms of our mannerisms, but also our routines that we do day to day. Now, you may have seen I've got 40% on there. There is a reason for that, and that was a estimation from a psychologist who identified that 40% of our daily activities are performed in the same way and context over and over, which goes almost under the radar. So we do a lot of our habits and perform lots of our routines throughout the day subconsciously without even thinking about them, because we've done them that many times over the years and they've become ingrained. We no longer have to think about the process of how to undertake a specific routine that we've got, like some of the ones above and some that you may have identified for yourself. And at this point I will suggest that you have to think about any of the habits that you have and how ingrained they actually are. So going back to the 40%, is basically meaning that there's no careful consideration in terms of the alignment with your goals and your values with regard to a habit that you might have. You just have it, and these habits are formed by your circumstances and the environment that you're in. So I'm not asking you to change your entire environment and your circumstances, but slowly we try to modify a set of goals week by week to try to implement changes to help us overcome difficulties that we may find within our environment and our current situation. So we've established that habits are regular practices that we have, and they are good and bad practices. They are ultimately learned behaviours nevertheless, so whatever's learned can be unlearned. So let's try to be a bit more conscientious, a bit more conscious, a bit more aware of our habits, and by understanding them, we can then tackle our habits and try to install some positive ones moving forward. Time spent. So this would be a task within the group where we would write down, fill out the sheet, and at the appropriate time, how you spend your time throughout the day, from when you wake up to when you go to bed of an evening. So I would ask the group now, and if you're at home and you have this sheet, then maybe fill this out starting from 5 a.m. if you do get up at that time, and finishing at 11 p.m. So the task is to fill out how you spend your day, and from this we might be able to identify some patterns, some themes that you'll notice. We'll also refer back to this later on. So we've got another group activity. It is a scenario. We have two scenarios basically, one from Mandy and one from Joe. Now, this scenario is running through Mandy's normal daily routine, and this one's running through Joe's daily routine. So in a nutshell, Mandy's a 67-year-old woman who's currently retired but has lots of childcare duties. I'm going to read this all out, but obviously you can read it at your own leisure as well. So let's begin. 7 a.m. she gets up, has a coffee and watches TV. 8:30 she is hungry, so she has a slice of toast with another coffee and then picks up her grandchildren and takes them to school. At 10:30, Mandy nips to the shop and picks up a local paper and a small packet of biscuits, plus some pre-packed tuna sandwiches. At 12 p.m, she has some lunch at home and eats her sandwiches with coffee and a few biscuits. At 3:30, she goes to pick up the children from school, and then they go back to her house whilst they wait for the parents to pick them up. At 5 p.m, her grandchildren have been picked up and she begins making her evening meal. She has a frozen meal. 6 p.m, she tidies up her kitchen and lounge and makes a cup of tea and has a few biscuits and watches TV. 2 hours later, she has some supper, a few slices of toast and a chocolate bar. At 9 p.m, she then goes to bed and watches her soaps. She then goes to sleep at 10:30. Joe, he's 37, he works part-time on the high street. Joe wakes up at 7 a.m. and he has a glass of water, listens to the radio, and shortly after sets off and drives to work without any breakfast. At 9 a.m, Joe arrives at work after picking up a cereal bar and a coffee from the garage. 10:30, Joe nips to the vending machine and grabs a packet of crisps and a can of fizzy pop. 12 p.m, Joe pops out to the shops and grabs a pie and a sausage roll with a bottle of water. It's someone's birthday at work and he has been offered a slice of cake, which he accepts kindly. 5 p.m, finishes work and starts cooking his evening meal. He has some other chips, beans and some breaded chicken. At 6 p.m, he sits down to eat his meal and has a cold can of lager. At 7 p.m, he then relaxes on his PC and looks on social media for an hour. He then has a small sandwich. At 11 p.m, he then goes to bed and looks at his phone and then drifts off to sleep. So we've got two scenarios, Joe and Mandy. What I would like you to do is now identify any good or bad habits, routines that you feel Mandy and Joe are in and suggest why, followed by suggest some changes to their routine. So you might have identified a habit or a routine that's good or bad, and I guess if it's a bad one, you can suggest some changes that would improve the current situation. So again, this is a task which we'll do in the group, but again, if you're doing it from home, it's brilliant just to have the sheet and fill it out. So imagine you're looking at this in the perspective of you're going to try and help Mandy and Joe identify some of the habits and routines and implement some better ones that will be healthier for them overall and contribute towards a healthier lifestyle. So let's try and add at least 2 or 3 positive changes where possible. And then obviously when you've done that, you could then send that back to me via email or on Facebook and we would discuss that. This next slide is a habit tracker. These I'm going to hand out within the group, and it's a really simple way to actually decide on a conscious habit that you have or you want to create a change. And what this does, for example, on the sheet you can see wake up at 7 a.m. Maybe this person's getting up till 8 o'clock and is rushing to get to wherever they need to get to. The simple habit could be simply just to wake up at 7 a.m. and that is the habit achieved. You will do that one day, have a tick, have a smiley face, and continue that. And the more you do this, the more ingrained, hopefully, this positive habit will become. And then moving down, once you feel that you have achieved this habit and it's now part of your new routine and your new lifestyle, you can then feel free to add an additional habit to your day-to-day routine. Benefit of this would be a habit tracker reminds you to act. Benefit 2, a habit tracker motivates you to continue. And benefit 3, a habit tracker provides immediate satisfaction. Another great tool we've got is the 3Ds. 3Ds are a good way in terms of identifying any habits and routines that you might have which are not conducive to a healthy lifestyle. Or let's say, for example, your habit is or you struggle with eating a specific food, shall we say, or you've got a craving for a specific food. There is a strategy known as 3Ds, which will be to delay, distract, and then decide. One way of looking at this is to decide on a delay time. So your time could be whatever you want it to be. It could be 10 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour. So let's say, for example, this person has a habit of an evening of eating a specific craving that they might have. So you could think about your own craving. When you have that craving, you decide to delay that for a given amount of time. I'm going to suggest 20 minutes. You then, within that 20 minutes, you don't just wait around and wait for the ultimate urge to give in. You actually decide to distract yourself. Do a daily 10-minute practice and then journal for 10 minutes. That is just an example. You could pick up any of your hobbies that you might want to implement over the 20 minutes. After you've done that, you then have a decision to make. So by looking at this, first of all, you might be able to make this decision a bit more clearer, knowing the advantages and disadvantages. So I put the advantage of not doing it. I will feel determined and satisfied with myself. So by not giving into a specific craving, you'll feel more determined and satisfied by achieving that. After the allotted amount of time, you then decide to do whatever the craving wants you to do, whether it's unhealthy, addictive behaviour you want to stop doing. So remind yourself of all of the disadvantages of doing it. Feel like a failure, less motivated, reasons I want to stop: I want to fit in those trousers, which are slightly smaller, and my life goals to be able to walk the 3 peaks in Yorkshire. So this can be bespoke, tailored towards whatever your cravings are and whatever your long-term goals are. So this is a great tool, the 3Ds, to help you overcome any cravings that you might have. So this is, again, something that can take time to work out, and I suggest that you do take time to do it and try to implement it. Maybe identify a craving that you do have and try to implement this over the next 7 days. Mindful or mindful. You'll be able to see there's a taller character identified as an adult and a smaller character, a child. You can see the more mindful character, the smaller person, they actually see what is going on in front of them, where the person who is very mindful has lots of things going on within their daily life and they're not really appreciating what is in the here and now. Now, below this, we've got a 5-minute meditation video that you can look at and you can follow. It's only 5 minutes. I've watched it. It's quite useful, and it definitely puts you in a different frame of mind and hopefully brings you to that present moment. Now, I've added the mindfulness in there because I feel this is a good habit that people could implement in their daily lives if they do not already do so. So I recommend that you go and have a look at that video. It can be very helpful. And then to finish with, we've got goal setting, which we'll always do. So we're going to look at some goals which we have got, which you want to set yourself. So let's look at the SMART goal. Make sure the goal is specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time bound to you. Let's write a few goals. Maybe they can be previous goals that you've attempted, or new goals, or maybe the goals relevant towards today's session, which is routines and habits. So I'm going to leave you with that. Hope you've enjoyed it, and we'll see you next week.